Hello YouTube, it's Jordan Rodriguez coming to you from Tampa, Florida. Um, just wanted to go ahead and let out a video of starting a YouTube channel based around sports and many sports topics that can, range from football to basketball, boxing. Starting to become a huge fan of boxing. A little bit of baseball thrown in there from time to time. Kind of have veered off from that, but I wanted to come with this video just to kind of give my idea of, as you can tell, a huge Jets fan, and just kind of my thoughts of where we are as a franchise and maybe some of the moves we should do moving forward, and kind of where my mindset is as far as how the offseason goes and how we should be thinking, planning for next year. But before I get into that, I do want to go ahead and get into, kind of how I became a sports fan, and just where my love grew from. And that started just growing up watching sports with my father, who is a huge Jets fan, huge Knicks fan. Growing up, big Miami Hurricanes fan for college football. So he's watched all sports, from boxing to NFL football, college basketball, hockey. He's an Islanders fan. So just growing up, just sitting on the couch in front of the big games and just watching together and enjoying those moments, And he's a huge reason why I got into sports, a huge reason why I started playing sports. Playing baseball was my first love growing up. And played from the age of 5 all the way till I was 17 years old in high school, my junior year. And mixed in through my childhood, played soccer as well. Played a little bit of basketball here, and a year of football, Pee Wee football, down in Ocala, Florida, where, was born and raised. So just always had a love for sports, a passion for it, and what the deeper meaning is behind it, and for something bigger than you, and putting your ego aside to accomplish a bigger goal than yourself. And the friendships you can build along those paths, and the people you meet, the coaches that you come across to help you grow on and off the field. I always just loved the deeper meaning behind sports. And I think there is a relation to life that you could take from sports, and then any avenue that you take, you gotta have a team. And you have to have people in place that know their role in order to get a huge goal accomplished. In this life, you can't do anything by yourself, so for me, that's why I've always loved sports. Just love root for people, to see people be successful. And that's kind of why I, love athletes as much, man, because dedication, the sacrifice that it takes to get to, professional level in any sport, is something that I just tip my cap to and, appreciate. Sports isn't everything in life, of course, but I think there's something that you can take away from it. And, yeah, man, I just love sports, man. Just super passionate. And I think I'll love it till the day I die, so I feel like God gave me that for a reason. Me, huge believer of Jesus Christ and the man upstairs. Grew up Catholic, in the Catholic Church, received, my baptism, my first communion. And so for me, I just wanted to put out a video because I felt like this is what I needed to do, and just to get my thoughts out, because I've been going crazy, like I'm sure any other sports fan can, understand when you're so passionate about something, you get caught up in it and just follow it, and you want to know as much as you possibly can. So basically, with all that being said, I kind of wanted to just go ahead and hop into the video about my thoughts of the Jets and So it's been about almost a month and a half since the season ended. And the season ended in disappointment for, I would say, majority of Jets fans. Considering the expectations going into the season, we get one of the all-time great quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers, four-time Super Bowl, a four-time MVP winner, and a one-time Super Bowl winner. So when you get an all-time great, expectations, rise. And the expectation that's going into the season was compete for the division and at a bare minimum be in a wild card spot and give yourself a chance to make a run in the playoffs. No guarantees, no nothing. And everybody knows exactly what happened 4 snaps in. Yeah, some of the most pain I think any Jets fans probably ever felt. I know for me, I was at a loss of words. I just couldn't believe it. Because going into that game, when Rodgers runs out of the tunnel, you see the flag on 9/11. I remember whispering to myself and telling my dad, I'm like, Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback. And yeah, that all went away 4 snaps in. So the season is kind of tough to really get a grasp on. Was it a failure? Was it not? Considering you lose your starting quarterback and an MVP caliber quarterback 4 snaps in. I will go ahead and say I feel like, for me, well, anyway, actually, before I even get into that, I want to say that I wanted Aaron Rodgers here. I wanted Aaron Rodgers to come to the Jets. I saw our top 5 defense last year with studs all across the board, from Quinn Williams to Jermaine Johnson to Bryce Huff to Will McDonald. I think is looking like he could be on the come up. Excited to see how he goes into his year 2. But even outside, even hidden gems like JFM and Carl Lawson hasn't been the greatest signing, but I think a stud front 7, whoever you throw in there, you can rotate them all around, right? Quentin Jefferson, the list goes on. They run almost 10 deep. And then you got the 2 guys on the outside, and DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, and the back end, which I thought was solid at the time, was Jordan Whitehead, and then they gave Tony Adams a chance to start this season, which I thought he showed glimpses this year. So, and on the offensive side, you have 2 players that were capable of winning Offensive Player in the Year, and Garrett Wilson, who did, and Breece Hall, who arguably would have won it if he didn't go down to injury. So you see that, you see some building blocks on the offensive side to go ahead and game changers, in my opinion. So for me, I wanted Rodgers here because I feel like he would help mature these guys, and just give them all that football acumen that he has up top, that he's gained over the years and years of being in the NFL. And that leads into also wanting to Zach Wilson, who I'm a huge fan of, always been a fan of since the day we drafted him, leading up to the draft, throughout the whole draft process. Sorry. And I'll be honest, one of the prospects that, especially as a Jet, but just in general, being a football fan, I watched so much football growing up, that he's one of my favorite prospects in time, because his talent, to me, is just off the charts. And I wanted him here to have a chance to reset, learn, and grow under the tutelage of Aaron Rodgers. Because I think he has a lot of similarities to Aaron Rodgers in terms of just the natural cannon of an arm, the ability to throw from different platforms, different arm angles, and to spray the ball from sideline to sideline and 50 to 60 yards with ease down the field. Now, he's had problems with accuracy issues, reading the field, and understanding the game of football, especially at the NFL level. So for me, I thought he showed a lot of glimpses, a lot of flashes his first 2 seasons. For me to want to give this kid a chance to truly learn, especially from one of the greatest. So you could take this video with a grain of salt and say, whatever, because I wanted Zach here. I'm not gonna run from it. But see, the thing is, for me, is because his potential is so high that I think people forget about. But anyway, basically what happened is what I wanted. Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson being behind him and learning. Well, that ability to learn went out the window in 4 plays. And in comes the former number 2 overall pick back into the starting lineup to shore the expectations of what was already built from the offseason. That was in relation to Aaron Rodgers. And it plays out the way it plays out, right? Zach Wilson struggles at times. Again, I think shows so many flashes and a lot of growth in his 3rd year, from the way he handled the media, from the way he handled his teammates, from the way he even improved his play, in my opinion. Subtle things, not like he just like figured it all out, but I think he's turning the corner. And basically, like, a huge point of this video for me is to say that I want Zach Wilson back again as our backup quarterback. This is a hot take, probably, especially in Jetland on Jet Twitter. There's a discourse between Zach Wilson and the fan base, right? I mean, we all know it. So, I can get killed in the comments, or people can take this however you want, but I want Zach Wilson back because I think he has showed a lot of growth. And I'll give many reasons in just a second as to why I actually want him here and why I actually think it's the best, like, gamble to take, I guess you could say, because everybody says, go get a legitimate backup in the Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, Sam Howell's being thrown around there, and that's true. Their floor is probably higher than Zach Wilson. But here's my point real quick. Yeah, you have a point. You can go get the lower floor and knowing what those guys are. But you're investing in those guys and backup quarterbacks a high amount anyway, in cash. So I'm thinking this from a point of where you're going to get the highest return on your investment. And for me, that's still Zach Wilson. Okay? He showed tons of flashes in the Bills game. Had some big throws. The one falling to Lazard. The one to Wilson. At the hash mark, basically low into the ground, only Garrett Wilson could go get it. And then it wasn't a great throw, but a good decision, in my opinion, to give it up to Garrett Wilson instead of where I see a 50-50 ball. Let you go, guy. Let your guy go make a play. Okay. And then, look, he had stinkers from the Patriots games, from the Giants games, in which he still had a game-time drive lead in overtime, and then made some big boy throws in the overtime to ultimately win the game. It wasn't pretty. I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying Zach Wilson's a perfect quarterback. I just want him here with an actual chance to learn behind Aaron Rodgers, who he's looked up to. Okay? Because for me, I don't know what to expect with Aaron Rodgers in this team next year. Like, we didn't get to see anything. So, I'm going to go based off what Aaron Rodgers has given us for 15-plus years in the NFL. That's an MVP level quarterback, because that's all I know. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, and I've talked to my friends about this, my dad, like, some of me feels like we're not going to get the Aaron Rodgers we want to see. I think we'll get a good Aaron Rodgers. But what scares me is, like, and I don't want to say this because he's an all-time great quarterback, is he's at the age where has father time caught up to him. And Aaron Rodgers is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. Probably my favorite quarterback ever, besides, maybe Mahomes. So for me to say that, it's hard, because I want Aaron Rodgers here, but for some reason, part of that is in my gut feeling that Aaron Rodgers, like, in some ways, like, the expectation is that Aaron Rodgers is going to come here and be the guy, but and maybe I'm delusional, completely out of this world, I guess. And this is maybe me just trying to do a little bit of manifesting. But I think Aaron Rodgers, low-key, was sent to us to groom Zach Wilson into something that he was supposed to be. And what he was, labeled as his number 2 overall pick. There's no denying the first 3 years of Zach Wilson has been a roller coaster, ups and downs, more bad than good. But his good is so elite, man. Like, this man can make throws that only 5 guys in the league can make. Like, to me, it's almost like it's Aaron Rodgers, our Mr. Miyagi, to Zach Wilson, our Danielson. And that sounds crazy, right? I know how crazy I sound when it comes to defending Zach Wilson at this point, but this kid's a special talent. And I feel like on the other side of this is greatness in Zach Wilson, because in my opinion, I feel like we've seen the worst of Zach Wilson, and the best is yet to come. And for fans of this sort, you can fan however you want, you can have your own opinion, you have the right to that opinion. But to blame the failure of this regime and this era of jet football under Robert Saleh on Zach Wilson is all on Zach Wilson is ignorant, it's emotional, it's to me a little bit of hate towards Zach Wilson. Because let me tell you something, we've had problems before Zach Wilson came here when it came to finding quarterbacks, finding a head coach. At the end of the day, even if it is Zach Wilson, guess who drafted Zach Wilson? Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. Now, who knows who actually made the final call? If it was Woody Johnson, if it was Joe Douglas, or even if Robert Saleh wanted in on Zach Wilson. I don't know. I'm not in the building. But at the end of the day, I can only go based off those 2 guys are running the franchise. Those 2 guys are the ones that are supposed to be making the decisions. So if Zach Wilson got drafted, for me, I have no other but they deserve blaming this failure too. Whether it's just playing out drafting him, if Zach Wilson's one of the biggest busts. I understand that he's on a trajectory of Ryan Leaf and Jamarcus Russell. Some people are throwing comparisons to Johnny Manziel and a multitude of other quarterbacks. I don't think that's that. I don't think this is a guy that has, gambling issues, off-field issues, or, addictions or something that's going to stop him from being fully mentally there. I think this kid wants it. Okay? And for me, I know this video may be all over the place. I want to say I'm sorry if it is. I hope y'all stay through the video to get to the end. But like I said, there's been problems in New York way longer than Zach Wilson. I mean, we had missed the playoffs for 10 straight years up until he got here. Is that all on Zach Wilson too? I'm not saying Zach Wilson has not lived up to expectations. He absolutely hasn't as a number 2 overall pick. But he's also came into an environment where that was a 2-14 team with no talent, no offensive line, no wide receiver weapons, a first-time head coach, a first-time OC, a first-time defensive coordinator. I know that has nothing to do with it, but a first time of a lot of people running the show. And then a first-time NFL quarterback. That to me, that was a recipe for success. And who knows if you get even veteran play callers in this that Zach Wilson works out. I don't know. I don't have an 8-ball to tell you what the future holds. I don't. I'm just here to give my opinion about what I think the Jets should do, and that is keeping Zach Wilson on this roster. And here's why, because for me, it's not even the fact that, for one, he's as good and talented as any other backup quarterback that you're looking at, okay? And I promise you, his situation as a backup last year was worse than the guys that everybody's looking at, aside from maybe, Sam Howell. And even then, he has better weapons all around on the offensive side. O-line's not that great, but Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, solid weapons. So, and then Gibson in the backfield, and then you got Robinson, who, he's okay, right? But, and then Gardner Minshew, who, played well and got them in the playoffs. I think a lot of that could be given credit to also having good weapons, a good offensive line. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, and you got in the backfield Jonathan Taylor, and I'm running back from the Bills, so if y'all could help me out. But yeah, anyway, and Shane Steichen being the offensive coordinator, having an offensive-minded coach that can build up a guy Gardner Minshew's not a guy that's going to lift up a team. So for me, this is about trying to get the highest return on your investment, and I think Zach Wilson has tons of NFL experience, that he has already gone through the worst, can learn from, and is also, to me, has built relationships in that locker room with guys. And I think the guys in the locker room respect Zach Wilson more than the media portrays and the fan base portrays. And to be honest, sometimes I feel like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and some of those guys, Tyler Conklin, they realize how special a talent Zach Wilson is. And I think a lot of their frustration comes from the fact that his play calling, it's not getting the guys the ball like Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. That frustration didn't come from Zach this year. That came from the coaching. I can promise you that. Maybe a little bit of frustration on Zach because you see how talented he is and he's not getting everything out of his talent that he should be. For me, this season was a failure on 3 or 4 things before Zach Wilson. I'm not saying Zach Wilson's an elite starter or is going to leave the Jets and then next year become a starter next year. No, if he goes somewhere and gets traded for hypothetical people throwing 6th and 7th round pick, that's so low. That's such, if Zach Wilson pans out or reaches his potential, that 6th round pick is going to look like a steal. To me, this season was on the failure of Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, and the coaching, Nathaniel Hackett, and the offensive line. 4 things I'd say. I'd say Joe Douglas, or in any order that we could put it in, we could sort it out in any order. I wouldn't even necessarily. Joe Douglas can go from 4 to 1 to 3 to 2. It's not. But if I had to say, I think this season falls on the failure of, like I said, any order. Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett, O-line. I'd probably even argue in those, probably Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, and then I'd say Nathaniel Hackett and O-line, and then Zach Wilson. Personally, that's maybe I am the biggest idiot in the world. I don't know. I'm not in that locker room. I don't know. I'm just a fan that loves football and loves the Jets. And for me, the mindset should be build up that offensive line, go get a receiver weapon, and let's ride out. I'm cool. I know I said earlier in the video, Aaron Rodgers, you never know. That's just me bracing, because I don't want to get, I did that last year when I thought we could make a run with Aaron Rodgers, and I was taken away in 4 plays. I'm not doing that again, because that killed me. I was still a guy that believed the season was not over with Zach Wilson, and I'd still argue if we had a better O-line and better play calling, we could have won a couple of those games that were winnable. San Diego was a winnable game with better O-line play and better play calling, in my opinion. The Raiders was a winnable game. The Giants won the Patriots game earlier in the year, was winnable. And there's games that you could even say could go the opposite way, and we're a 5 or 6 win team. That's the truth. But I think that this season, it's not on Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson showed tons of growth. And I'll tell you what, I think it could be one of the biggest mistakes that we ever make is moving on from this kid for a bag of chips. For a 6th or 7th round pick is a bag of chips to me. Because how often do 6th or 7th round picks stick and become Pro Bowl? Like, it happens. Of course it happens. I mean, I understand Brock Purdy was just Mr. Irrelevant, right? Everybody's going to use that as a, like, there's been undrafted guys, you know, like, I get it. I can't think off the top of my head right now, but I get it. But those are the guys you kind of throw on the wall and hope sticks. Like, you don't have any expectations for those type of guys. If they hit, great. But that's more the player making you look like a genius more than yourself, I feel like. And I just think that we got to just build the O-line up. I've lost a lot of trust in Robert Saleh as a head coach because to me he deserves blame why Zach Wilson has failed from the development aspect. I don't think they ever developed him properly. Maybe shouldn't have even started from day one. Was a raw player. And that's in hindsight. At the time I wanted Zach Wilson started because I was a Zach Wilson fan, like I've said. I'm gonna be a Zach Wilson fan probably for forever, man. Zach Wilson is a special talent, man. You can't convince me he's not. This man throws the ball when on time and in rhythm as effortlessly as anybody I've seen. Not saying he's gonna live up to the Aaron Rodgers or the Josh Allens or the Patrick Mahomes or, you know, whatever, you know, guy you want to use. Who's known as Dan Marino, one of the best throwers of the football. Like, I think Zach Wilson has one of those arms. Rare. He just hasn't showed it because it hasn't been consistency, and I think a lot of that has to do with the Jets not being a healthy environment for him to succeed. I don't like saying this about my franchise, but I have to call it how I see it, at least. Because I can't keep lying to myself. You know, and put my Jets colored rose glasses on and act like everything's okay, because it's not. I've seen us draft Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez, Sam Darnold, you know, Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg, so many. I've watched Luke Falk playing the game, Trevor Siemian, multiple time stints in New York. Just bad quarterback play. And Zach Wilson has had bad quarterback play. But this kid has something that those guys didn't, and that is natural talent, stuff you can't teach, man. Zach Wilson's arm is rare. You can kill me for it. That does not mean he's going to work out in the NFL. But I feel like if we gave this guy a chance to learn behind Rodgers, and even let's say Rodgers does go down to injury, if it's a few games that Zach got to learn from and actually watch it live and then have a week full of game film to watch Aaron Rodgers, I think he will grow exponentially. And what's he cost? 10, 11 million next year? I say you bite the bullet, because at the end of the day, if Aaron Rodgers were to go down or this season were to fail with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, we don't make the playoffs, you're cleaning house anyway. Robert Saleh's gone. Joe Douglas might be gone. Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately, might be on the way out if we don't make the playoffs. He might retire. You don't know. So I'm looking at this as in, like, let's go all the way in with the plan that we originally had. If that was the true plan of keeping Zach behind Rodgers to learn. I'm not saying this is right, and I'm not guaranteeing anything. But Zach Wilson is special, man, a special talent, and I think he will figure it out at some point and find footing in his NFL career, whether that's here in New York, which I truly hope it is. Especially if he's who I think he can be. But just talking to friends, my dad, throughout the whole season, just about the Jets and football, you know, like I got a Dolphins buddy, you know, that lives in the area, got a Saints buddy that lives in the area, you know, whole bunch of friends that just love football, that just love sports in general. We're always talking about it and hashing it up, and like, this is just where my mind's been at, and you know, the grass ain't always greener. And look, I mean, all our marbles are already in on Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, let's be real. I think I'm sure if you believe in Robert Saleh to be a good head coach, I think he's a good defensive coach, but all around, I don't know. And we're banking on the greatness of Aaron Rodgers. Like, let's be real with ourselves. So, I'm with that. I'm with banking on the greatness of Aaron Rodgers. I'm fine with that. That is one of my favorite quarterbacks I've ever watched play the game. So to me, let's do it. Let's run it with Zach sitting behind him and learning, maybe soaking up some of that greatness. He has the talent. Can't tell me he doesn't. So stick to the plan. And who knows? Maybe the football gods, God, has different plans, and this is all just a part of the journey. I don't know. That's what I feel. If we stick to it. And we I know it feels like we've given Zach 100 different chances, and I know I'm probably going full Zach mode. I apologize, but that's just the way I feel, man. We got studs on this team, and I don't want it to go to waste, and I promise you, I think we've got special in that locker room. And I do think Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh deserve credit for some of the talent that they've brought in, the defense that Robert Saleh built up. But nobody's done a perfect job. They all have their hand in the pot, from Zach Wilson to Robert Saleh to the O-line issues, to even some of the coaching issues that stem from Mike LaFleur being stubborn and not willing to change some of the game plans that fit his strength of his overall players. To Nathaniel Hackett being somewhat the same way. So for me, man, like, I'm good with putting all of our faith in Aaron Rodgers. I'm fine with that. In a perfect world, Aaron Rodgers goes on and plays 17 games next year. We go on a playoff run or whatever, let's just say delusional, let's just go crazy, and they win a Super Bowl. And Zach Wilson truly gets the full year, and who knows, maybe we hand it off to him after next year, and Aaron Rodgers goes into the sunset. That's in a perfect world for me. But things don't work out that way, so. But I think this is the best way to get the biggest return on your investment, and that's Zach Wilson. Because you can go draft a guy to develop. There's no guarantee that they're going to work out either. And I think we've seen the worst of Zach, like I said. Tons of NFL experience and a high upside. Just as high as an upside as any of the quarterbacks in this draft. At least that's what I feel. It's just that you've seen so much bad that you don't realize it. Whereas those guys will be a fresh start, clean slate. So I get it. The time may not be there for Zach Wilson to come back to New York, but I just think we can make a mistake, man. And I think Zach Wilson's special talent, man. And let's just go build up this whole offensive side of the ball, the offensive line, get some more weapons. And let's go right out with Aiden going magical, and I'm with it. But bring back Zach, man. Because there's something there in him. I know it. I feel like there's something there with him. There's been plenty of quarterbacks that have gone on to different environments and gone on to succeed or had rough starts in their career, from just quick, examples, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, the list goes on. You could think of, Steve Young way back in the day. I know these are, that's an all-time great. Or Josh Allen went out for a quarterback, struggled his first 2 years. A lot of guys wrote him off, said he'll never be a franchise quarterback. Lost to his first playoff game to Deshaun Watson. Everybody was claiming Deshaun Watson to be way better than Josh Allen. Look, a few years later, they ain't even in the same stratosphere. Sometimes you just have to let things play out. Go look at Ben Roethlisberger's sacks his first couple years. Not the greatest. Drew Brees didn't have the greatest stats. Was traded from San Diego. For the San Diego Chargers, like, oh yeah, we're gonna get somebody in Phillip Rivers. Guess what? Who ended up having a better career, Drew Brees or Phillip? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to guarantee anything from Zach, but people act like this kid's done, and it's a lost cause, and it ain't the truth. So that's just the way I felt. I know this video was kind of long, kind of a rant, but it's just the way I feel, man. And just bring back Zach, bring back two, and let's just go fully all in on what the original plan was. And if it falls flat on his face, I'm fine with that, because I'd say at least we're willing to take the chance to develop and properly give somebody a chance to succeed in this market, especially in New York, in this organization. So I'm with it, man. You know, free agency's just around the corner. So I want to give out some thoughts on what I think we should do with that as well, moving forward. Can't wait to get into more videos from Jets related to, I'm a Knicks fan in basketball, to boxing, huge boxing fans, starting to get into that more and more. You know, two of my current favorite fighters are Ryan Garcia and Errol Spence Jr. Favorite fighter of all time is Manny Pacquiao. So, you know, I love sports, and I love what it means. And, yeah, man. So I hope y'all were able to stick around for this video, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And you know, to anybody who's feeling the same way out there, you know, just let me know, and whoever disagrees, let me know as well. Like, this isn't me trying to act like I know more than somebody else. It's like I just believe in Zach Wilson is going to turn around, and it's just the way I feel. And you know, I'm not going to be, you know, called a Zach truther for it, because that's what I see on social media. Because what? Because I'm a Jets fan. I watched this team through thick and thin. Through thick and thin, I've watched this team. Josh McCown at quarterback. You know what I mean? Freaking Michael Piedron. Zach Stacy was a running back. You know? Watched Chris Ivory tote the rock for a little bit. And Terrell Rivers is my favorite Jet of all time. I love this team, and you know what? I also have a love for Zach Wilson anyway. That sounds like I'm glazing. I know. That's the world we live in, right? Can't give people flowers until they're dead, unfortunately, in this world. So, anyway, yeah, it's just the way I felt. So, you know, if you guys can give me a like, leave some comments, subscribe, and I got plenty more to go, man. And yeah, we out.